When night settles over the desert, it does not arrive gently. It falls like a vast, silent curtain, swallowing color, sound, and distance, until the world becomes nothing but shadow and breath. Long before the names of empires were carved into stone, long before maps learned how to speak truth, there existed stories that travelers whispered only after the fire had burned low. Stories of cities that rose too high, kings who believed themselves eternal, and walls that remembered every sin committed within them. This is one of those stories. Before we begin, take a moment to settle in. Lower the lights. Let the outside world grow quiet. And if stories like this call to you, if you find comfort in ancient mysteries and forgotten places, do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and walk with us into the sands once more. Your support keeps these stories alive, passing from one listener to the next, just as they have for centuries. Now listen carefully. For this is the story of the city of brass, a place that still waits beneath the sun, untouched by time, guarded not by armies, but by silence. In the days of the Umayyad Caliphate, when Damascus stood at the heart of the known world, there ruled a caliph whose curiosity was as vast as his power. His name was Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan, and though his armies stretched from desert to sea, his mind was drawn to something far older than conquest. One evening, as lamps flickered in the palace halls and scholars gathered to debate history and law, a learned man spoke of a discovery recorded in forgotten manuscripts. He spoke of brass vessels, sealed with the signet of King Solomon himself. Within these vessels, it was said, were imprisoned jinn, beings of smokeless fire, bound long ago for defying divine command. The caliph listened in silence. And then the scholar spoke of something else. A city. A city made entirely of brass, hidden beyond the furthest edges of the desert. A city raised by kings who commanded jinn, who believed their power immune to time, whose walls shone like the sun itself. The city of brass. By dawn, the caliph had made his decision. He summoned Musa ibn Nusayr, a general known not only for his strength, but for his wisdom, and charged him with a task that would carry him beyond the borders of any map. Go, the caliph said, and find this city. Bring back the vessels, and learn what became of those who built it. Thus began the journey. Musa set out with a caravan of soldiers, scholars, servants, and guides who claimed to know the desert's language. Camels carried water, food, and hope, though hope grew lighter with every passing day. The desert did not welcome them. Days burned into nights, and nights froze into mornings. The horizon never changed, only shimmered and laughed at their exhaustion. Some men swore they saw towers rising in the distance, only for them to dissolve into heat and disappointment. And yet, they pressed on. At night, the scholars read aloud from old texts. They spoke of cities swallowed by their own pride, of kings who ruled the wind but could not command death. Each word settled into the hearts of the listeners like fine sand, impossible to shake free. Weeks passed. Then one morning, the guides stopped. Ahead of them, rising from the flat emptiness like a wound in the earth, stood walls that caught the sunlight and hurled it back at the sky. They had found it. The walls, stretched farther than the eye could see, smooth and towering, forged entirely of polished brass. No banners flew above them. No guard stood watch. No bird circled overhead. There was no sound. The gates were sealed, massive doors engraved with symbols so old no scholar could name them. Musa ordered ladders raised, and one by one, men climbed the walls, hearts pounding with anticipation. What they saw beyond stole their breath. Inside lay a city of vast avenues and towering palaces. Untouched by ruin, untouched by age. Streets lay clean, as though swept only moments before. Fountains stood dry but unbroken. Doors remained closed. And yet, there was no life. One soldier, overcome by greed, leapt from the wall into the city below. The moment his feet touched the ground, he laughed, shouted triumph, and then without warning fell silent. He walked a few steps, stiffened, and collapsed. Unmoving. No wound marked his body. No poison scented the air. Fear rippled through the group. With great caution, Musa ordered the gates forced open. The hinges groaned like something long asleep, and the doors parted just enough for them to slip inside. The air within the city was cool and heavy, as if it had been waiting centuries to be disturbed. Their footsteps echoed too loudly, disrespectfully, against the silent stone. They passed houses filled with furniture still arranged, cups resting on tables, curtains hanging untouched. In some rooms, they found figures seated upright, eyes open, faces calm. Statues. Except they were not made of stone. They were people, preserved in a state between life and death, their expressions frozen in moments of surprise, laughter, or fear. One scholar whispered prayers under his breath. Another wept. At the heart of the city stood a palace grander than any Musa had seen. Its doors opened easily, as if inviting them in. Within the throne room, they found rows of seated kings, queens, and courtiers, all turned to brass, all gazing toward a central throne. Upon it sat a figure larger than the rest, crowned, regal, and utterly still. At his feet lay an inscription carved deep into the floor. Musa knelt to read it aloud. Where are the kings of the earth? Where are those who built and ruled and commanded the jinn? Death came to them, as it comes to all. Their power did not save them. Their walls did not protect them. Learn from us, O traveler. Before your city joins ours. Silence followed. Even the bravest men felt their hearts tighten. In the palace vaults, they found them. Brass vessels, sealed and marked with ancient symbols. When one was opened, smoke poured forth, thick and black, twisting into the shape of a towering jinn. It screamed not in rage, but in terror. Release me, it cried. I have been imprisoned since the age of Solomon. I swore to grant wealth to my Savior, but centuries passed, and I learned only despair. Musa ordered the vessel sealed again. This was not power meant for mortal hands. Deeper within the palace, they found the final chamber. On its walls were etched the history of the city itself. The kings had ruled the jinn, commanded the elements, and declared themselves equal to the divine. They believed their city eternal. And so, eternity came. Not as glory, but as stillness. The jinn, released from control, had turned the city into a monument of warning. Life was not destroyed, but paused, trapped in a single moment forever. A mercy. Or a curse. After reading the final inscriptions, Musa ibn Nusayr remained kneeling for a long time. Around him, the men waited, afraid to speak, afraid that even their breath might awaken something that had slept too long. The city of brass did not threaten them. It did not roar, collapse, or rise against them. it simply watched. Musa understood then that this city was not abandoned. It was finished. Every road had already reached its end. Every ambition had already been answered. He stood and ordered the men to gather what they had come for. But nothing more. No treasures were taken. No statues touched. The vessels alone were collected, sealed tightly, and carried with reverence, as one might carry the bones of the dead. As they prepared to leave, one young soldier lingered behind. He stared at the frozen faces lining the streets, at a woman forever mid-laughter, at a child reaching for a toy that would never fall. In his eyes burned a question he did not dare to ask. "What if," he whispered, "they are still alive?" Musa placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then may God be merciful," he said, "for this is not a life meant for humans." The gates closed behind them with a sound like final judgment. No one looked back. The desert welcomed them again, harsh but familiar, and for the first time in weeks, the sun felt merciful. Men spoke in hushed voices, as if afraid the city could still hear them. At night, they dreamed. Some dreamed of endless halls of brass where footsteps echoed forever. Others dreamed of kings who begged to be remembered. A few dreamed of a city that followed them, silent and shining beneath the sand. And Musa dreamed of nothing at all. When they returned to Damascus, the caliph listened as Musa recounted every detail. The court stood silent, struck by the weight of the tale. The vessels were placed in guarded vaults, never to be opened again. The caliph ordered the story recorded, not as a triumph, but as a warning. A city can conquer the world, he said, and still lose its soul. From that day on, the story spread. Travelers told it by firelight. Scholars debated its meaning. Children listened wide-eyed, sensing that this was not merely a tale of the past, but a mirror held up to every age. Some say the city of brass still stands, untouched beneath the sands, waiting for those who seek power without humility. Others say it exists only as a lesson, carved into memory rather than stone. But those who have crossed the deepest deserts claim that, on certain nights, when the moon is full and the wind is still, the sand reflects a strange, golden light. And if you listen closely, you may hear nothing at all. For silence, too, can speak. And now, as this story comes to rest, let the images fade gently. Let the desert grow quiet. Let the city sink back beneath the sands where it belongs. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient myths and forgotten places, do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and return again for more stories whispered from the past. Thank you for listening. May your dreams be calm. Your sleep be deep. And may no city of brass ever rise within your heart. Good night. Sleep well.